Welcome to Live Chat with Josey. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Mawarire. So, you can hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so welcome to Live Chat with Josey. So it is a culture here on my chat show that I'll ask you to introduce yourself. I will not introduce you to our viewers, but you have to introduce yourself. Tell us where you were born, when you were born, where you grew up, before we dwell into the serious issues.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. I was born on the 18th of February 1974 in Gweru Hospital, to be precise. So I was born in Midlands, but I come from Masvingo, from Zaka, Ward 20 in Zaka East. I went to school, primary school, at Zibroa Primary School in Zaka. Then I went to secondary school at Tsiga Secondary School, from 1 to 4. Then I also did my Form 5 and 6 at Jibo Valley High School. Then I did my first degree with the University of Zimbabwe, which was a Bachelor of Arts in English and Linguistics. Then I also did a postgraduate diploma in Media and Communication Studies with the University of Zimbabwe. Then a master's in Journalism and Media Studies with Rhodes University in South Africa. I've worked as a journalist in Zimbabwe, and I've also worked in the area of elections. I've worked with ZESNI. I've also worked with my own organization called the Center for Elections and Democracy in Southern Africa, doing election observation and research in electoral matters. So I can safely say that I know a bit about journalism and a lot about elections.
Okay. And you are a father, you are a husband. I do not know why my guests always miss that. You would tell me about everything else, but you don't want to tell me that you're a father. Kumba kuna mainini. And you are a husband.
Yeah, but I have to protect my wife, my lovely wife.
I don't
I have to protect my lovely children because we work in very, very dangerous, in a minefield anyway. So that's why you see, even if you follow me on Twitter, you follow me on Facebook, I don't post my my family pictures. It's a security issue. We know the kind of environment that we deal with in Zimbabwe as politicians. So it's always to keep the family away. Very lovely wife, Lorraine. Some saw me with her when I was when I did my constitutional court application. Actually, she accompanied me to the court. So in that vein, she has been in the public view. But I have two very lovely children.
Interesting. Oh, well done.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Mawarire,
we thank God.
Yes, definitely. And so you are a politician. You are the spokesperson for the NPF. How did the NPF get to be? Who is behind the NPF? Who is the president of NPF? How did you get involved with the NPF?
The NPF, the National Patriotic Front, actually the idea to form the National Patriotic Front was mooted on the 19th of November 2017. In light of what we had seen was happening in the political situation in Zimbabwe, it was in the midst of a coup. And then that's when I took a bold decision to conduct some fellow Zimbabweans who were affected by the coup. We also had conversations with President Robert Mugabe about the need, really, for a peaceful political solution to what was happening. Actually, the NPF, the idea to come up with the National Patriotic Front was a way of trying to bring a political solution to a violent military takeover of power, which had started on the 14th of November 2017. So the idea then was to let the military go on with what they were doing, because we knew, we had information that any form of resistance that President Mugabe, that others that had been chased away from government would want to, if they decided to take any form of military resistance to what was going on, there was definitely going to be a bloodbath. And in order to avoid such a bloodbath, that's when, as Zimbabweans, as concerned people within that crisis, we then began conversations to start a political party that could give a political solution to what was happening during that time, during the coup time.
So are you saying you were the brains behind the political party NPF, which was President Mugabe?
No, I was the one who was free, because by that time I was in South Africa. President Mugabe was under house arrest. People like Professor Jonathan Moyo, people like Xavier Kasukuwere, they were in hiding. So I was the only one who could coordinate people that were on the ground, people that had already skipped the border, people that were already in this country, towards that a political solution that we envisaged. So I was part of the Zimbabweans that actually came together. You never form a political party as an individual, but my role then was to coordinate people of a like mind, so that we could come up with this kind of a political formation in order to deal with the situation that was obtaining at the time.
So how long did you know President Mugabe before you started the NPF party?
I knew President Mugabe for as long as I started remembering anything. I was a politically conscious kid, you know. At 5, my father used to take me to Zanu PF meetings, political meetings in Gweru, so I was politically very conscious. And I don't think there was anyone of my generation who didn't know President Mugabe by then. And by the way, I was when I was in Form 5, I was a child MP for Zaka. It was it was Zaka Chirez at that time, but it included my own constituency, which is now Zaka East. So I knew President Mugabe from my interaction as a young MP. And I don't think any Zimbabwean worth his salt wouldn't know President Mugabe. I don't know the type of knowing.
Not knowing you or knowing when his motorcade is long, motorcade would pass. Of course, all of us knew. Even I grew up in Hatfield, Airport Road. When I was going to school, if the motorcade is passing, we would wait and wave, scream President. But I didn't know him as a close ally like you did. When did you become so close to him?
Yeah, but I never said I was a close ally, but I said I was one person who then coordinated.
Okay, so you
said I was one Zimbabwean who then coordinated people of a like mind, people who then relayed a message to President Mugabe that it was expedient at that very moment, actually during the coup, for us to look for a political solution to a very volatile military situation that was obtaining. It was good for him, it was good for Zimbabwe, and that was the message that I was carrying. And that idea, that thinking came as a result of the conversations that we were carrying out as politically conscious people within and without Zimbabwe. And I said I am one of the people that was coordinating that thing. And we then had to approach those that we thought had a similar what we were doing. And then it also then included even President Mugabe. And gladly President Mugabe saw sense in what we're doing. And he was amenable to a political solution to a very volatile and potentially very dangerous military situation that was obtaining at the time.
So as we speak, who are the members of NPF?
Yeah, but I can't sit down here with you and tell you all the members, 2 million members.
Because earlier
Is it
on you
feasible?
said that earlier on you mentioned names Xavier Kasukwere, Jonathan Moyo and all. So I just want to find out, after you obviously coordinating this because they were in trouble, there was issues going on, the coup was going on in Zimbabwe. So are they still members of NPF? That's what I mean.
No, they were never members, but they were people that we actually consulted because they had information that we wanted. They had the kind of experience, political experience that we wanted at that particular time, and then we had conversations with them, and we actually had to pick their brains on what they thought was the best political solution to what was happening. But they were never members of NPF.
Okay, so what, just in a nutshell, your opinion on President Mugabe, the late President Mugabe, what can you say about President Mugabe?
A lot of things.
A
lot of things. You have to look at what he did in the area of education, what he did in the area of health, what he did with the land reform, which is something very commendable. You have to look at the misses, the hits and misses, where he missed. And I've said this not for the first time. There were conversations that I had with him, and I was honest with him on what I thought were hits and what I thought were also his misses, especially when he allowed the top military officials to involve themselves in mining, especially the mining of diamonds. I think that was one of the misses, actually, because it has led us to where we are, because we ended up creating warlords in this country, and we have a problem with the army. We have a problem with the army generals and the political army generals who, on top of having unbridled ambitions for power, ended up also amassing quite a lot of money from the illegal sale of diamonds in this country. And they became warlords. And those are the people actually who then led the coup in 2017 in order to protect what they had looted. There are quite a lot of things that that President Mugabe did. Granted, some of them on reflection, he could have done better. Like I told you, allowing the army, the military guys to involve themselves in mining. I don't think that's the business of government or whatever arm of government to be involved in business. Business should be left to business people, and the role of government should be always to create a conducive atmosphere for business people to do business, and government then gets taxes from business people. And government should function where governments function well, which is provision of social services to the people.
Okay, so did you ever discuss about Kukura Hundi with President Mugabe?
Sorry, I didn't get you there.
Did you ever discuss about Gukura Hundi with President Mugabe?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And our conversation, one of the conversations that we did on Gukura Hundi is actually a discussion that is recorded. And luckily, it wasn't a discussion that I had personally with him as an individual, but I had other journalists with me when we discussed that with him.
And what was his side of the story?
His opinion, and to quote, and this is on record, this is something that we've filed. He says that there was a volatile political situation that was obtaining in Matabeleland, but the reaction that later on, that the kind of atrocities that were committed by the army were never sanctioned by him. He said in his own words, the most unfortunate thing about sending armed soldiers to deal with a volatile political situation is always that there are excesses that happen because when the orders are executed on the ground, the top command of government won't be on the field. And he also spoke about the issue about 0 hour. I didn't know about 0 hour. I didn't know that the issue about 0 hour obtained in Zimbabwe. I thought it obtained in Angola, but he mentioned something to do with 0 hour, something to do with political instability, the fightings between the ZIPRA and ZANLA forces that needed to be quelled, that needed someone to stand in between and show the former military wings of ZAPU and ZANU that we had a country to build. But unfortunately, I think there were orders coming from other sides, and we ended up having a situation that he also even regretted. And I think he's on record that he was saying the Gukura window was a moment of madness. I think everyone in his right senses, any politically conscious person in Zimbabwe, anyone who lived through that period, actually can testify that as Zimbabweans we could have done better in actually solving the kind of political hostilities that existed between our major armed forces that prosecuted the War of Liberation, which was the ZANA and the ZIPRA. I think we should have done better in trying to solve whatever kind of acrimony that was obtaining at that time, rather than having people going about on a wanton spree of killing civilians, all in the name of quelling any kind of armed insurrection.
So you, as jealous Mawarire, did you believe him when he said that? Do you believe that President Mugabe was not behind, of course with his allies, was not behind the Gukura Hundi?
No, but he was the commander-in-chief. He was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and that's why I'm saying there was supposed to be a better way of dealing with the insurrection that was obtaining in Matabele and Midlands provinces. Things should have been done better. That's my take, and I believe that strongly, that whatever was obtaining, I'm not privy to the 0 hour that he was talking about, and how the 0 hour was effectively instituted in Angola and torpedoed Savimbi and installed Dos Santos. But from my conversations, I hear something of that sort was being planned in Zimbabwe. And, but I still believe that there was a way of solving whatever kind of misunderstandings that were there between ZANA and ZIPRA forces. Besides, we shouldn't have involved the civilians, because I think more people who died during the Gukura Hundi atrocities, those were civilians. They were never,
exactly.
They were never armed ex-combatants. Yeah.
Okay, and you are one of the few people that spent or that had an opportunity to see President Mugabe, of course, before he passed on, before he left the country for his health treatment, and then I think there was a press conference that you did with him. What are those few things, or what is that one thing that President Mugabe, in your own opinion, regretted the most?
Obviously, he regretted that the people that were constantly begging him not to resign, the people that were constantly telling him that he couldn't abandon them at that particular time, were eventually the people that instituted the coup. He regretted that, because I think they were very disingenuous with him. They were very dishonest, because he actually said he wanted to resign. He indicated that he wanted to resign well before the coup. But we hear some of the people that were behind the coup were the people that were going running with the line that there's no sun that rises when another sun is still there. And they were the same people that were resisting the takeover of the state and government by Maim Juru, when a lot of people, including some of us, supported Mawarire to take over power from President Mugabe in 2014.
Did he say anything about the current president, Mnangagwa?
Yeah, a lot of them. But I don't think I don't think this is the platform to say that.
I was not going to.
He said. Yeah, he said.
Just saying that
he said quite a lot of things, and some of them are in the public domain, and particularly even on his 95th birthday. He said a lot of things, and these are in public. He warned President Mnangagwa that he's not God, that he should not step upon dead bodies in order to consolidate power. He should be magnanimous in his so-called victory after 2018, and he should actually work very hard to unite the people of Zimbabwe and to guarantee the safety of Zimbabweans, first and foremost, as citizens. And he spoke passionately about the fact that if you are a president, if you are a leader of a nation, you are not a god, you are not supposed to be killing people. And this was after civilians were shot in broad daylight on the 1st of August 2018 after the elections. We had never seen Zimbabweans being shot in front of international television cameras.
Okay, so Mr. Mawarire, Zimbabwe is not a country where someone can freely express themselves. There's no democracy, but you're one of those people that will say what you want. You don't fear anyone. You don't fear anything. Why? I mean, what are you stepping on? Who is backing you? This is a question that I've always wanted to ask you, but I saw a lot of people say that.
God is the one that is backing me. If you have studied me, I was one of the people that were very afraid of this system. I was one of the people that were very afraid to get into politics until I got born again, until I had sound doctrine that. The only way that Satan can actually get a hold of me is when I'm afraid of a human being. I shouldn't be afraid of any human being. I should be afraid of God. The only thing that a human being can do to me is to destroy this flesh, but he can't destroy my soul. He can't cast my spirit into hell. So there's really nothing to fear. Why should I fear a human being? Which part of a human being do you think I should be afraid of?
I mean, you know what happens in Zimbabwe. You even told me when I asked you to introduce yourself, you said you have to protect your wife, you have to protect your children. Obviously, you know what I mean. So I said
I have to protect my children. I have to protect my wife because my wife is not a politician. My children are not politicians. I am the politician. I'm the one who made the decision to get into politics. And I'm the one who is not afraid of anyone.
Some people say that you are CIO, C10, we call them in Zimbabwe. That's why you can say what you want, just to lure people to engage in such conversations with you. True or false?
Yeah, but if I was CIO, then I think there should be documents to justify that, because I've heard even people from the MDC, they were the ones who started calling me CIO, and they were in government. And as ministers of government, surely they should have stumbled upon my name on a government payroll, upon my EC number, because I know every person who gets employed in government has an EC number. So they should have actually done their research and exposed me. If I'm CIO, certainly someone should have exposed that. Those that have been in government before, and even those that are in government now, why don't they? I am actually one of their chief critics. Why don't they expose me that I'm a CIO? If I'm a CIO, why do they then resort to blocking me on Twitter if I'm one of them? Why not just expose me for who they claim I am? If I'm CIO, I think this whole country, 16 million people, Zimbabweans will be very glad to have me exposed.
All right, let's discuss about the coup. Then the coup happened.
Yes.
state of Zimbabwe as we speak. What is your opinion on what should be done?
What should be done is actually, there are a lot of things that we have to debunk as Zimbabweans. And really, we have to look at the reasons for the coup and which reasons actually militate towards the situation that we are in now. They explain the situation that we are in now. And what we need to do as Zimbabweans is to debunk one of the issues that the coup doers actually successively propagated, which is that they are the only ones that can protect the legacy of the liberation struggle. The liberation struggle was never fought by only the person that was carrying the gun. It was fought by all of us. And the legacy of the liberation struggle will be preserved by those that believe in the tenets of the liberation struggle, the reasons, the values of the liberation struggle, which for me was the democratization of this country. The democratization of the country, and the resultant privileges, if I may say, or rights that that Zimbabweans got after fighting and prosecuting the war of liberation, which topmost include universal suffrage. You remember that when people went to war, they were fighting for what they wrongly called one man, one vote. It was ungendered, but they were wrongly trying to describe universal suffrage. And universal suffrage is a very important issue. Everyone should have a right to elect the leadership of this country in a democratic manner. And that right can never be exercised fully if the process, the electoral process, is compromised. So, yes, we have to allow our people to vote, but their vote should be protected. And that's very fundamental, because that leads us to having a situation where our citizens can actually select a government of their choice and can hold that government accountable. But what we have now is a situation where we have a group of people that believe that politics leads the gun, which is contrary, actually, that the gun leads politics, which is contrary to the ethos of the liberation struggle. The liberation struggle was prosecuted on the understanding that politics should always lead the gun. But what we saw in November 2017 was the gun leading politics, the gun being used to solve or to resolve a political dispute within ZANU-PF, and that is completely wrong. It's wrong in the sense that contesting political factions within ZANU-PF were supposed to engage politically and solve their own problems without the army resorting to siding with one faction. And the result was always then poisoning of the political situation, which then compromised the 2018 elections. And I'm one person who, when the SADC preliminary observer team came here, I told them that the situation that was obtaining in the country was not conducive for the holding of free and fair elections, because we were under a military state. We were under a military junta. There were, by that time, several government arms that were dysfunctional, especially the police. The police was neutralized, the CIO was neutralized during the coup. And up until maybe even now, those arms of the state are highly compromised and highly dysfunctional, because the military is in control of everything that is happening, including determining who then was declared as the eventual elections winner in 2018. So there are a lot of things that we need to sit down as Zimbabweans and discuss and really interrogate why the people that took over power in 2017 took over power. And unless we come to the realization that they did not do that in order to advance the democratic dispensation in this country, if anything, they sold our sovereignty to those that begged them, most notably to the British and the Chinese.
But Mr. Mawarire, this is a dialogue that everybody has been saying since the coup happened, elections came. A lot of people, of course, are disappointed, especially the MDC, and a lot of citizens, Zimbabweans, say that the elections were not free and fair. And you are now saying that we need to, as Zimbabweans, we need to sit down and discuss that. This discussion, for how long will it take? It's already another full term. While Zanu PF is in power, whilst President Mnangagwa is in power, and you see the state of Zimbabwe right now. So when will this dialogue happen? When will it take place? Because we can all be Twitter, keyboard masters and Twitter masters there, but days are moving, time is moving. It's almost 5 years.
Yeah, but I think your perception of dialogue is different from mine, because I don't think the dialogue that
you need to make me understand.
I don't think the kind of dialogue that I'm talking about is the dialogue where or the Pollard type of dialogue. The dialoguing that we need to engage in as Zimbabweans is a dialogue that is aimed at bringing together people that are like-minded. And this you don't do in a hotel. This you don't do by standing on a pedestal and say I'm meeting so and so, and this is the strategy that we are going to take in order to correct the wrongs that the soldiers actually inflicted on the country in November 2017. So that dialoguing, those conversations are already taking place as we speak. People are talking and Zimbabweans are talking. And I don't think if you want to mount a sustainable and effective reaction, which is going to turn around things in this country, you have to on the one side, be interested in generating media headlines, then on the other side, trying to bring people together. People are secretly and quietly engaging each other in order to come up with one big tent that is going to chart the way forward. And we are going to move. You know, whenever you are confronted with a situation, the effectiveness of the strategy that you are going to implement in order for you to get out of that situation is determined by the amount of time and planning that you put behind that process. So yes, you might think we are behind time, but I think for as long as we are conversing, for as long as people of a like mind sitting together and putting ideas together on what should be done, I don't think it's never too late.
Let's talk about the current cabinet. Which minister would you say at least is trying to perform?
But you have said trying to perform, which means no one is performing. Which means no one is performing. So why should I?
Well,
why should I engage in an exercise where I'm going to give marks to Dandaids? You see, I don't think that will help anyone.
Oh my God! But at least there's someone that you can at least say he's trying, he or she's trying.
But you can't be trying when the leader of government is completely clueless. He doesn't know what he wants to do. Right now, he has announced that we are under an indefinite lockdown, and that lockdown is going to be reviewed after every 2 weeks. But there are no clear indicators. There are no clear variables that he's going to review. No one knows what he's doing. No one knows what he reviews after 2 weeks. No one knows the indicators that actually warranted us to move from an unknown level to level 2, because we didn't know which level we were prior to his declaration that we're on level 2 of lockdown. So if you have a president who is clueless, and that clueless president appointed a cabinet, I think it's actually an exercise in futility, trying to rate people that were appointed by a clown, by people who didn't know really what he wanted to achieve, who came up with a cabinet just for the sake that for him to be called president, he's supposed to have a cabinet. But if you just choose a cabinet because you know that Mugabe had a cabinet, and so you are supposed to choose your own cabinet, but you are completely clueless as to what that cabinet is supposed to achieve, and you have never made it very public what you wanted to achieve, how you wanted to achieve what you wanted to achieve, then how can we take you seriously, and how can we take anyone who then accepts an appointment by someone who doesn't know what he wants to do? And we actually try to validate them by putting them on a scale even of 1 to 100 or 1 to 10. Why should we do that?
You know, Bamini, you are my C10, my CIO, so I want information. So where's the vice president, Chiwenga?
Why should I know? Why should I know? Why should I know? I just see him on television moving around.
Oh, he's still moving around?
I just see him on ZBC. I don't know whether those are file tapes. I don't know whether they are recent tapes, but we hear that he's moving around the country, maybe helping farmers with winter wheat. I don't know what he's doing, and I really don't care, because I know these guys are clueless. They're not doing anything.
There is someone here, comments, I'm also reading comments as we are talking. Someone says, I think Minister Josey is doing a commendable job. Your opinion on that? Yeah,
but if you have no industry, because you see the demand for electricity is very high when industry is working. When everyone is under lockdown, there is no industry functioning, there is no demand for electricity. Then even if you generate 500 megawatts, it will suffice to provide lighting to every home in this country, because the highest amount of power is consumed by industry. So when you don't have industry, let's say if your car is broken, and when you're broken, when it's broken, it broke down when it had a full tank, then can we really celebrate that you can now fuel the car when the car is not moving?
And your opinion on sanctions, the sanctions on Zimbabwe?
Yeah, the sanctions, are they sanctions on Zimbabwe or targeted measures on individuals?
That's what I'm asking you, that what is your opinion? Are the sanctions on Zimbabwe or on targeted individuals?
Yeah, they are targeted on individuals, and I think those should be widened, because we've seen actually a crop of youngsters who are misbehaving in this country, and I think some of them really need to be added on the sanctions list. Some of them very reckless, some of them promoting hate, some of them are actually much more dangerous to Zimbabwean citizens than even the madalas that they are serving under. So I think those should be widened. If they are targeted measures that are supposed to bring sanity to this country, then those should be applied. If the nationalists in this country, including people like Comrade Zobro, would go on an international platform and call for sanctions against the racist Smith regime in order to achieve the full democracy. I don't believe that if we have Zimbabweans that are misbehaving, if we have Zimbabweans that are responsible for the abductions of citizens in this country, those should not be put on targeted sanctions. They should. And I make no apologies about that. I don't care. Those that are killing people in this country, whether they are shooting them at 45 degrees or at 95 degrees, those people should be held accountable. If holding them accountable also.
Who are these people?
Yeah, but it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that soldiers
I have a lot of people. I have a lot of people that are not Zimbabwean on this platform listening to us right now. So it might be common knowledge to you and me, but who are these people?
Yeah, but the people that are responsible for deploying soldiers in this country, They are known. The Constitution is very clear that Section 213 of the Constitution is very clear on who has the mandate of deploying soldiers on the streets. So, and that's the president of the should stop with the president of the country. So when we see soldiers being deployed on the streets of the country, and those soldiers go on a wanton exercise of killing civilians, even killing women that are fleeing away from them. And then someone wants to believe that the president doesn't know about that. We become really, really, really very worried about the kind of country that we are staying in, because the president under Section 213 of the Constitution is the one that is responsible for deploying soldiers. And if soldiers are deployed on our streets and they go on to shoot civilians, they go on to get into residential areas, wantonly beat up people, rape women, then the president who deployed them should be accountable and should be answerable. And if ever there is any kind of sanction that should be put upon the president for doing that, then he should be answerable, because to whom much is given, much should be expected. And the consequences for killing civilians should be very dire, and they should be actually prohibitive measures that should be enforced in order for people not to abuse power. The fact that they have access to the country's arsenal doesn't give them a right to shorten people's life on earth.
And your opinion on the main opposition party, MDC? I also saw there's a question here that what is your opinion on the recalled MPs, the MDC MPs?
I've actually, I'm not a lawyer, and my opinion is purely a very political and social opinion. I thought those MPs contested as MDC alliance, and I don't see any reason why a political opponent that they defeated in an election can then recall them from parliament, unless otherwise what we are now calling parliament is a circus. Then you can have such a thing obtaining. I don't think it's legally and even politically. I don't think it's reasonable to have someone that you contested against then writing a letter to the Speaker of Parliament recalling a political opponent from the seat that they democratically won and that they won through an election. I don't think it's politically and legally sound to do that, unless otherwise we are living in a circus where every one of us, where Zimbabwe is a very big amphitheater and everyone is actually taking part in a comedy.
So if you are to be in the same room with President Mnangagwa today, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that he took over power illegally. He is a coup president. He's illegitimate, and he should actually do the right thing, accept that the people that installed him in power did that unconstitutionally, and therefore he's an unconstitutional leader in this country. And he can do every one of us a favor by actually stepping down and citing the reason that the process that led him to be where he is was unconstitutional and illegal.
And if you are to be in the same room with Nelson Chamisa, what would you say to him?
I would also tell him that he should have done better in taking over power in February 2018 when Morgan Tsvangirai died. I think the optics where some people were taking him and putting him through a window were very bad. And he should actually have, in light of his political opponent who had taken over power illegally, should have actually gone through processes and democratic processes within his political party actually to take over power. And this is a conversation that I've had with him personally, and these are opinions that I've expressed clearly and soundly, that there was a better way succeeding Morgan Tsvangirai than the one that is depicted by that small picture where he's getting into office through a very small hole at Harvest House. That's very bad optics for me. It's really the advantage that Nelson Chamisa had was that the Zanu PF information team did not see the value of using that kind of optics against him. I think that was very bad. And particularly in the context that his major political rival was a person that was coming on the backdrop of a coup. He was also not supposed to take over in a way that would leave some legal loose ends. And I would also have told him that what happened in November 2017 was by no way a miraculous transition, but a violent takeover, unconstitutional takeover of power by soldiers through a coup. And when some of us were saying this was very bad, we knew exactly where we were going. We knew that was going to have an effect on the elections in July 2018, because these guys who took over power through the military coup were very clear, and they put the reasons why they took over power. They wrote, they signed minutes, and they said, we are taking over power from Zanu PF because Mugabe and G40 are going to make us lose elections to the MDC. So if he was favored with that kind of information, that the people that took over power were taking over power to avert an imminent Zanu PF electoral loss in 2018, he should have actually condemned that kind of illegal takeover of power that he eventually called a miraculous transition. There was nothing miraculous about a violent takeover of power. People died during that exercise that they euphemistically call Operation Restore Legacy. That was a coup, and a lot of people died during that coup. And that was an unconstitutional and illegal takeover of power. That should have been condemned by anyone who would want to see democracy entrenched in this country, and who would envisage at one point in time that the liberation war ethos of this country are going to be respected, are going to be valued, and are going to be preserved for posterity, which is the fact that the gun should never lead politics in this country.
Because I look at Nelson Chamisa, he attended the inauguration. And then what's your take? There's a lot of people asking you to comment on Tafazwa Mugwadi's utterances.
No, we don't comment on non-entities. We don't give relevance, you see, to people who are of no consequence, you see.
Your view on Zimbabwe's response to COVID-19?
Yeah, but I've actually made it very clear that, you see, I believe, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a microbiologist, but what I know by merely existing on this earth and by merely being literate is that even individuals, the individual bodies of individual people adapt to different environments differently. So I would have expected that we as Zimbabweans, or the government of Zimbabwe, should have invested quite a lot of money in financing our microbiologists, our scientists, and our doctors to research on the specific behavior of the coronavirus in our own circumstances, not just to copy and paste what is happening in Britain, to lock down the country because Italy has the Italians have locked down their country, the British have locked out their country, South Africa has locked out their country. Then eventually you say that we have locked down the country because we know that we can resuscitate the economy, but we can't resuscitate people that are dead. And apparently we are copying that statement from Ghana. You know, the Ghanaians can say that they can resuscitate the economy because the economy is sound, is on a sound footing. The Ghana seed is 1 to 4 with, or 1 to 5 with the American dollar. There is no economic upheaval like what we are experiencing in this country. You can't definitely think or give Mnangagwa the benefit of the doubt when he tells you that he will resuscitate this economy post-COVID, when he couldn't resuscitate the economy when there was no COVID. So when he's saying that, he's just copying what the Ghanaian president said. He has no clue. He had no clue of resuscitating this economy when he took over power in 2017. And even now, as early as January this year, there was nothing happening on the economic front that you can actually point out that Mnangagwa is turning this country in a different direction. If anything, the situation we are under now economically is worse than what we were in November 2017. Bread is now around $40. Fuel $20 when $21 when it was $1 before the coup. The civil servant salaries were something around $400 before the coup. Now there is less than $20. So if you have a president who has failed to resuscitate the economy before the coronavirus and the COVID-19 pandemic, surely that president is out of depth in terms of turning around the fortunes of the economy post the COVID-19 pandemic.
So will the NPF be running for elections in 2023?
The NPF was formed in order to contest the elections, and we contested in 2018, and we are going to contest not only in 2023, but we are also going to contest any election that we feel there is need to contest in between.
So do you care to share a bit about your manifesto?
Yeah, we really believe in the empowerment of the Black Zimbabwean in this country, and our economic policy is hinged on actually ensuring that government is not involved in business. Government should not be involved in mining. Government should be involved in providing a conducive atmosphere for businesses to thrive. Government should be there in order to enforce contracts, actually in order to provide remedy where contracts between government people, between business people are concerned. If business people have disputes, then the legislative arm of the government should be there in order to fairly adjudicate and enforce the law in terms of making citizens and making business people adhere to contracts that they would have ended. And we also believe that we are supposed to deal with the issue of property rights in this country. We have to solve the issue of the land tenure in this country and allow our people that benefited from the land reform and those that are also going to benefit from government allocation of land as we go forward. Because we also believe in this idea that the downsizing of farms, we were actually one of the few political parties that were advocating for sticking to the prescribed scientific prescriptions on the maximum farm sizes according to regions and according to the farming activities that people are actually undertaking in each and every province. And we also were advocating that we also deal with the issue of land that is not being utilized in this country. Mind you, there are vast tracts of land, very, very productive pieces of land that are not being utilized in this country, especially in region 1 and 2. And those pieces of land should be allocated to people that are deserving and should be allocated not on a partisan basis, but on the basis that those that have need for land should actually demonstrate that they can utilize it. And after they benefit from the land, there should be security of tenure. Whether that security of tenure is a title deed, is a bankable 99-year lease, as long as that instrument of security is bequeathable to your progeny in the event that you pass on, it is bankable. You can convert it into cash. We don't care what name you would call it, but we would need at least the security of tenure, and that security, secure tenure should actually enable people that are on the farms to, one, put permanent infrastructure on the farms, and two, also try to convert their pieces of land into equity in order to develop the pieces of land that they have.
And on health?
On health, actually, we believe that we have the infrastructure that is there. What is not there in Zimbabwe is government will to allocate money, one, in order to cater for the human resource, and two, also to equip the hospitals in terms of machinery and medication. But we believe as a political party that government should not play a central role actually in procurement of equipment and procurement of medication, but that the government should be actually assisted by a pool of professionals within the health sector. They know quite a lot. I've had conversations with doctors who are telling me that you see, we have a situation where we have quite a lot of obsolete equipment, some of which is in Chinhoyi Hospital, because that equipment was donated there and no one can use that. It is equipment that should have been used centrally here in Harare, where there is expertise to use that equipment. So the procurement and the distribution of equipment and medication should be directed by health professionals. Those people, mind you, they know quite a lot about what needs to be done in this country, and they should just be given away.
We need to end this and then reboost it again, because it only allows us to go live for an hour. So I'll end this video, then I'll come live again so you join again.
All right.